What's going on, everybody? It's Billy with Podcast 1558. I'm coming real quick, and I'm talking about Frank Clark. I'm getting impatient. So, some news broke last week. Kansas City Chiefs defensive end Frank Clark being charged for what we learned on that day, a second firearms offense on June 20th. And then it recently came out just a few days ago that he is being charged with a felony, which holds a penalty of up to 3 years in prison. That is not for the incident on June 20th. That is for the incident on March 13th that we didn't know about until about June 20th, June 21st, when we learned about the Lamborghini Uzi incident. And I gotta say, I think we didn't want to jump the gun, start coming out saying, cut him. Look, this is a fragile situation. Probably the Chiefs have been down this road way too recently in the last few years when we ran into the Kareem Hunt incident in 2018. And I don't know if the Chiefs are somewhat a little heartbroken still over that. I think we're obviously seeing that, the Chiefs were going to be the bad guys if they kept him, but Kareem gets to go on and succeed, and someone else gets to benefit off taking the risk on him that we weren't allowed to take. But I won't go down that path. What did then later come out, which I think is the news that everyone had been kind of waiting to hear, is this came from Spot Track on Twitter. Any sort of suspension for conduct detrimental to the league will void the guarantee on Frank Clark's $18.5 million salary for 2021. That's all I needed to hear. They made it clear the reason, what they told us, what the Chiefs told us, the real reason we let go of Kareem Hunt, because he lied. He didn't tell them everything that had happened, so they could not be prepared when this bombshell took place. Something tells me we as fans weren't the only ones surprised to learn on June 20th that this was the second occurrence for Frank Clark getting in trouble with a firearms charge. So I kind of assumed, as soon as we knew, which the Chiefs knew the whole time, if there is a clause in there that can avoid some money, we would be cutting ties with him right then. He's not going to play 2021 for free. I would imagine not. He can get cut. He'll go get paid elsewhere. Let's face it, this man is not going to jail, especially not for 3 years. He's not going to jail, period. I'm sure next week when it will be this week. Today is Monday the 12th. He has his date in court this week, and I'm sure he will plead guilty, and he will pay whatever he has to pay, and he will be fine. $18.5 million freed up right now is enough money to not to stop with the whole Melvin Ingram and Justin Houston thing. I'm all for it. Justin Herrera, Podcast 1558 contributor, we were talking about just the production of Justin Houston these past two seasons, which has outperformed Frank Clark. But let's not pretend that a ring did not come with Frank. Obviously, it was a team deal, but the fact his attitude he brings to the field is something we had missed dearly. But, I think a Chiefs fan's got to respect the fact that we lived as long of a life as we lived without Patrick Mahomes. And now that we are in here, we know it's not going to last forever. And we want the guys that aren't going to be fucking it up every offseason on the team. And He's driving around with an Uzi and a Lamborghini. I think he's having some fun. I think he's got his ring. He's got his money, and we're not gonna. You can't pretend to keep thinking that he's a hungry player. Yeah, he certainly didn't play like it last year. But that being said, freeing up $18.5 million is enough to approach a team about a current player. Possibly get a trade done. Do something. If not, if that's not going to be in the cards, I don't necessarily see the Chiefs doing anything with Frank. If you do free up that money, what do you do with it? You certainly don't need 18.5 to get Tyrann Mathieu extended, and that was going to happen and will be done probably by training camp. That deal will be done regardless of what happens with Frank Clark. So I am. This is a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know what Brett Veach can do. It's always Veach season. I do trust in him to get this deal to get through this and make the right decision for this team. It is a position group that really can't afford to get much thinner. Outside of Frank Clark on the ends. And let's stop it with the Chris Jones shit until we actually see that happen. Chris Jones needs to stay inside, in my opinion. But I was okay with Taco and Frank playing on the ends. You lose Frank out there. At the very least, you're losing the top of your depth chart at that position, and things can get dicey. You've got a still young, gelling secondary that needs all the help they can get up front. We've got some young linebackers right behind that line. That line has to hold, do a lot of the heavy lifting, in my opinion, for this defense. So I'm not sure. Would I be okay with Justin Houston coming back? Sure. Would I be okay with Melvin Ingram? I guess. There are some injury question marks there. I was more okay with Ingram coming in, assuming Frank Clark would be playing opposite side of him. Him being the mainstay guy on the end, I'm not sure how exciting that is, but you free up $18.5 million, you could go get Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram, and some other players, because they certainly aren't going to touch $18.5 million collectively. Let me know what you guys think. What happens with Frank Clark? Does he remain a Kansas City Chief? Does he get cut? If so, what do you think the Chiefs do to correct the problem on our defensive line? All right, this is Podcast 1558. I'm Billy Truelove. I'm out. Go Chiefs.